Hey, everybody, welcome to another episode of the Headstrong Podcast. I'm your host, Danielle Mills, and I'm super excited to talk to you today because it's been Mother's Day weekend. So hopefully you've had the opportunity to spend some time yesterday with your mom. Even if you didn't get to spend time with her in person, hopefully you got a chance to call her or talk to her and kind of catch up and tell her how wonderful she is. So wanted to kind of talk a little bit about my own mom because she's so special to me and I love her so much. And I was just thinking about, all the different moments that we've had with each other over the years. And I actually compiled a list because a lot of people don't realize that throughout my professional tennis career and even my junior career, both of my parents traveled with me, I would say 90% of the time. It wasn't until I was, early 20s that I began to really travel on my own or with, just me and a coach. So for all the other years, and mind you, I started playing pro tournaments at 14, I was traveling always with my parents. And especially when I look back on it, I made this awesome list of all of the different countries that we had the opportunity to travel to together. It was just crazy kind of looking back and seeing a lot of those. And there's a couple trips in particular I want to talk about because of the fact that those trips we got to go on our own. So from what I remember, a lot of times when it came to travel, most of the time it'd be my mom and my dad and myself. But there would be some times where maybe if I needed to do like a tour where I would be playing more than one tournament, so I'd be gone for more than 1 week, it would be a little bit more challenging for my dad to go because of his, he has to still run his business. And then he would send my mom with me. So I can remember the first trip that we went, I think, out of the country together for tennis solo was Brazil. And I just remember being so excited about this trip because I knew that I loved Brazil. Like everybody I have ever met from Brazil was so friendly, so awesome. I had become really obsessed with the Portuguese language. So I was really trying to learn it. And there was an opportunity to play these two pretty big junior tournaments in Brazil. The first one was in Porto Alegre. The first one was in Sao Paulo, and the second one was in Porto Alegre. So we were in Brazil for 2 weeks straight. And I just remember it was so exciting because, well, I think Porto Alegre we liked a little bit more because that one was on the water and the weather was more tropical, kind of like Florida. So I just remember, in the mornings, my mom waking up really early, and there was this park outside the hotel that we were staying at, and there's all these people working out, and they were drinking this drink that was like tea, and I think it's matcha. Honestly, I think looking back, it was matcha, but then in addition to that, everybody had acai. So I know all you guys listening know about acai because it's like it was like the it fruit that was in all of the smoothies and things that are here in the US. But this was back in we went to Brazil, I want to say in 2008, 2009, one of the two. So it was back then. So acai was not so popular, or I don't even think it was a thing yet in the United States. And I just remember us trying it because there was a little like street vendor outside the park, and we got some, and it's called like acai con leche, which means acai with milk. And it was like super good. And it's like this deep purple color fruit, and the flavor was just so like rich, very different from how acai is in America, where they've added so much sugar and put stuff in it to try to make it Americanized. But the original acai from like true Brazil, completely different. But I just really remember my mom having such a great time, waking up early before, my practice was going to happen, and, working out in this park and walking and looking and, people watching and seeing everybody. And that trip really resonated with me because it was just such a fun trip that we had. So that was like the first one that I can remember us going to together on our own. The second one that I want to talk to you guys about, which was phenomenal. This was a big deal because it was our first time going to a country kind of like this. And I was actually surprised that my dad didn't come to this one, but I had the opportunity kind of later on I want to say 2010 or 11, or it could have been 9. I don't have the exact date, but I had the opportunity to play a WTA tournament in Morocco. And that was like, whoa, like we didn't know if I was going to get into this tournament. It was kind of like up in the air, but we took a risk and we went there. Or maybe we did see that there was an opening and that's why we went. But my mom and I went, and it was such an awesome experience to see, you know, what Morocco was like and like what the culture was like there. It was so different. I mean, I remember, you know, landing there. We played it in Fez, Morocco. And I just thought it was so cool, you know, in the airport, everybody's wearing, you know, the beautiful garb, and like everybody was so friendly. And I just remember thinking like, okay, let me be mindful of my own attire and try to blend in as much as possible. I had a lot of pants. I wasn't like, unless I was on the tennis court, no legs showing, no shorts, none of that. So we were being very cautious of, you know, the area, the culture, and everything like that. But what's really cool is, you know, okay, just to give you guys a little bit of a background, typically when you play WTA tournaments, they have it so organized. You know, somebody's picking you up from the airport, they're driving you to the hotel. There's always a shuttle that's going to take you from the hotel to the actual site that you're going to play your matches. And, you know, you're never interacting with, or you're kind of out of the lens of, you know, somebody who's protecting you and watching you, which is awesome. So, since that, you know, makes you feel a little bit more secure, especially in certain countries. So, you know, we were always sticking to that, staying within the tournament grounds and everything. But the last day that I was there, or second to last day, we had the opportunity to get to see like the old town. So think of it like a flea market on steroids, but like super, super ancient looking, like very, very old school, like all of the, it was like this massive area of Morocco that was like all these different street vendors and people selling things and trying to show you stuff. And, you know, but luckily we did have somebody from the tournament with us that was able to kind of protect us, because in a tourist environment that might have been a little bit rough if we were on our own. Plus we don't speak the language. And, you know, it's always kind of fun because back in the day, when we would do some of this stuff, I know for a fact, you know, if my dad was there, that probably would have never happened because it was too risky or too, I don't know. But the awesome thing was when I got a chance to travel just with my mom, I knew she'd be down to like do something exciting, because she's so into like exploring new things. And, you know, she actually enjoys like getting lost, because then you find something new. So she always has a really positive outlook on, you know, I'm in a new country. Let's try the cuisine. Let's interact with the people. Let's go see something, you know, nothing out of control, but always like wanting to do something else. So that was awesome to get a chance to go to Old Town Fez, or Old Town Morocco, and interact with. And I think I ended up purchasing like a very, very fake, but it looked real, Prada bag back in the day. Cause, you know, they have all these, you know, knockoff stuff, and they're selling you, you know, their thing is all like these really big rugs, and there's all this stuff that they have. But it was just such a cool experience to go through that. And then, okay, let's think. Another place that we went together, this one was actually towards the end of my career. It was one of the last tours that I did. This one was like 2014. We went to Turkey. So Antalya, Turkey. And, you know, it's amazing because we went to Turkey and we were staying at this all-inclusive resort on the beach, but because of the time of the year that the tournament was, it was cold. So imagine you're staying at a beach resort, all-inclusive. They have everything. I mean, it's phenomenal. But I was literally playing tennis matches wearing pants, a jacket, a long sleeve under the jacket, and I was putting like my skirt over the pants. Like that's how cold it was. It was so cold, guys, that, you know, for those of you who are listening, familiar with tennis, there's different surfaces of tennis courts. The court was clay there. The court was so cold that it froze. Like a clay court was frozen. It was freezing. And it was just so like ironic that this beach resort, and then the pool was like everything was closed that was tropical, because it was the off season. So it wasn't like the time of year where all the tourists were there, because nobody wants to come to a beach resort when it's cold. So literally the entire resort was just all the people from the tournament. It was a guys and girls tournament. So we were there for, I want to say 3 weeks, 3 whole weeks. And if you've ever been to an all-inclusive resort, it is phenomenal because, you know, everything is there. You never have to leave the resort. All of your meals are taken care of. They have these elaborate buffets where you can pick all different types of food. They do have some other restaurants too that you can go to, but think about it like this. That is all fine and dandy for like 1 week, because that's about 7 days of you having, you know, that food, you're in that environment. But after about a week, it's like, oh my gosh, get me out of here, because you just kind of feel like you're in you're kind of mini trapped a little bit. After about 2 weeks, it's like, oh, okay. So we were there for 3 weeks, I think. It might've been 4, but I want to say it was 3 weeks. The best part about the whole trip was the first week, I ended up winning the tournament in doubles. So myself and my partner, we won the tournament. So that was my favorite week, of course, because every day was a win. And then so once we won the tournament, that was on a Saturday. I had like one day to enjoy it, Sunday, and then the very next day I had the next tournament. So when you play a tour and you're flying across the world to play like multiple tournaments in a row, you either do really well or maybe you don't do so well. So then you have the other days to train and practice and get prepared for the next week. So the only bad thing about winning is you really don't have much time to have a break, celebrate, or whatever before the next tournament rolls around. So there was that. But I just remember that being such a fun trip because, you know, my mom, she was working out every day. We were in Turkey on the beach. So all the cuisine was Mediterranean. So we were eating so much, we were eating so many vegetables. We were eating lentils, we were eating baklava. We're eating there's so many different like couscous dishes and vegetables. Like if you were a vegetarian or a vegan in Turkey, you would be thriving because they had so many different options that were meatless. At that time, I was still eating meat, I think. Was I? I probably wasn't. I was probably eating like chicken and stuff, but I wasn't eating beef. But they had so many options. And I just remember us eating a bunch, but we didn't gain a bunch of weight because it was so healthy. And another thing that I remember about that trip was, you know, in the common areas in the lobby, they had these waiters that would come around and say, would you like tea? Would you like hot chocolate? So we had so much tea. I think I've never had so much tea in my life. Plus it was cold and it was just such a cool place to be. And then just like in, where was I last with her? Just like when we were in Morocco, after about 2 weeks, we somehow found a way to say, hey, like, can we go to the town of Antalya and actually see something? So, and the thing was the resort was like an hour away from like any kind of like civilization because all the resorts were in one area and then where all the people lived were in another area. So we were able to take, you know, for not that much money, it was fine. We were able to take like a shuttle or something with somebody that we trusted to like the mall to see like what that was like. So we had the opportunity to have McDonald's in the mall in Turkey. It was completely different, but it was just so much fun. So let me just read off for you, just so you guys have an idea of the extensive travel that I had the opportunity to have with my mom. Some of these trips my dad was on too, but I just want you guys to get an understanding of what that was like. So just to give you some context, when I was playing pro tennis, I was truly on the road about 36 weeks a year. And that's a lot of time to be away from home. So with tennis, you're playing all year round. The off season for tennis is really, really short. It's like from November through Christmas. If that, there's still tournaments happening through that time, but if you're like a really well-off pro, you're probably going to take off like the second week of November through Christmas. And then you're really like, that's off from playing tournaments, not off from practicing or anything like that, because that's the time you have to actually work on your game, improve your game. And then January comes around, then the Australian Open, and then all the tours in Australia. So you don't have a lot of time. So the off season is really short. So you're traveling a lot. So I'm just going to read you some of these places so that you guys get an understanding. So we were in Mexico a ton. I want to say that during the time I was playing pro tennis, I think that my second home was Mexico. I had counted back when I was playing that I went to Mexico with my parents over 29 different times to all different cities throughout Mexico. So Mexico, we did a ton. Canada, we did a ton. That was another place we were at all the time. Colombia, we went to a good amount. Venezuela, we did one time. And we had a bad experience where we all got food poisoning, but we had to look like we were okay so that the airport allowed us on the plane. Because if you look too sick, they're gonna be like, we don't want you to come to America. But anyway, so yeah, we went to Venezuela, Brazil, like I said, Costa Rica, we did a good amount, El Salvador. I always like that place because I won the tournament there, Dominican Republic, Bahamas, Barbados, Bermuda, Jamaica, St. Martin, Martinique, which my mom and I did together, which was that trip was crazy. Think of Martinique like an island, which is really small. So it's so small that the tourism there is not as high as like a Bahamas or even like a St. Martin. So there, everything is not really geared around that. So it was just crazy to have to navigate through there. And then it rained every single day, but they wouldn't start the matches until like 4 o'clock in the afternoon, but the morning it'd be dry. And then when the matches would start, it would be pouring rain. So like the whole planning of that tournament was just bad. And then I think that they lost our luggage. That trip was crazy. I didn't even want to talk about that trip. Okay, so then we went to Spain together. We went to France, Germany, Sweden, Portugal, England, Morocco, like I said, and Turkey. So those are the countries that, from my memory, that I went to with my mom. I had been to more countries than that on my own, but this episode is about Mother's Day and about our trips together. So those are the ones that I wanted to tell you guys about. But yeah, just to kind of wrap things up, my mom, somebody extremely special to me. She's the nicest person that I know. She's always so happy. She looks at life always glass half full. I think a big reason of that is she grew up with a very handicapped sister. Her sister had a condition where I forgot the name of the actual condition, but she can't like swallow and she can't eat. So she had to eat through a tube. She wasn't able to walk. So my mom is the oldest of 11 siblings. So 11, a big Puerto Rican family. And my mom's sister was severely handicapped. So I think she always looked at life like such a blessing that she had the ability to like walk, eat, move, do things so normally. So when, people complain or they have issues, she always kind of looks at it like, you have no idea how grateful you are. So I think she's really instilled that in me and made me feel really blessed and grateful for all of the opportunities I've been able to have and the fact that I'm in good health and everything like that. So I really attribute a lot of my kindness and, how I care about people because my mom is so caring and so nice. I actually have this photo here because she's not here with me at the moment. I did ask her to be a part of this podcast, but she said, hey, Danielle, I'm not so good at talking on camera like you are, but maybe if you could give me some questions, I could write something for you. I'm like, okay, well, maybe we can do that in the future. Or maybe I can work her up to wanting to be on camera in the future. Wish me luck. But I have this picture of my mom. I found out that this is a picture from high school when she took her like high school picture. And I have it always kind of nearby because it's like, I don't know, it's so cool seeing your parents like when they're younger because you're like, whoa, like what was your mind like? What were you thinking? Like what was everything like? So I think that's just so cool. But I hope that all of the listeners have had a phenomenal Mother's Day and that you have truly thanked your mom for everything that she's done for you, because to be a mom is the greatest sacrifice. It is the most painful thing in the world, but it's also the most rewarding thing ever from what I hear. I'm not a mom yet, but I'm just so blessed to be able to talk about my mom today with you all. And, a lot of the listeners, a lot of my listeners probably have met her before or know her. So if you have got a chance, say hello because she's a phenomenal lady and she's awesome. But guys, I'm really, really excited because let's talk about this real quick. So next episode is going to be a really, really awesome episode because we have a special guest that not only was a former NFL player, but he was also a former Miami Cane, and really excited for him to come on and talk to you guys a lot about, obstacles, adversity, and dealing with, injury and retiring. So I think that you guys are going to really resonate with his message. His name's Asante Cleveland. He's our next guest for next weekend. So stay tuned for that. But I hope you guys all have a phenomenal week and you stay positive and stay motivated. But have a great week, guys, and we'll talk to you next week. Bye, guys.